Oh, what the fuck is that? Ew.
Plenty of animals have pretty privilege, but no other animal has ridden that train further than a gutterfly. I did not misspeak. This halo effect insect is an abomination with wings, and if that offends you, you could die in a field today. Corpse still warm. Last thing you might see is a bloodthirsty butterfly swarm.
Oh,
Many
Jesus
butterflies
Christ,
drink blood,
butterflies.
among other things. Butterflies will do this thing called mud puddling, and essentially, it's using that built-in straw called a proboscis to suck the juices out of organic matter to farm free nutrients. Trench flies usually get it out the mud, but they'll also suck on rotting plants, feces, and dead bodies.
Ew.
You don't even have to die. If you pull over to the side of the road to relieve yourself and come back hours later, you may find a flutter of fiends feeding on your urine. See, now you thought they just used flowers as fuel, and that is true. The problem is just a diet of sugar water would leave butterflies without key minerals they need. One of those minerals is sodium, and they'll go to extreme lengths to secure it, even irritating the eyes of reptiles to drink the tears.
Oh my
Crocodile tears have
God.
use to someone. Of course, butterflies taste through receptors on their feet, so one landing on you doesn't make you a Disney princess. It makes you a sodium-seasoned rest stop for a flamboyant fly that's just using you until it gets what it wants and moves on to the next mark. Because
Oh my
butterflies
God.
are boys with wings, and that is not a joke, because their mating behavior is out of pocket for something with its PR, but one thing at a time, we'll get to that. But the only thing more questionable than what some butterflies eat is what some people will do to find them. The Purple Emperor is a beautiful, ethereal muse to any entomophile. It's also a death merchant that avoids flowers, instead preferring rotting animal flesh and fecal waste. That hasn't stopped folks from seeking out this corpse fly, and here are some of the things people have used to attract them. Rotting fish, fermented shrimp paste, stinking bishop cheese, dog poop, roadkill, very used diapers, and in one case, a trailer of pig poop. But according to longtime enthusiasts, one of the biggest turn-ons for a Purple Emperor is urine-soaked fox poop. I don't think that's a coincidence, because not only are butterflies fine to mine for liquid gold, science says they might prefer the pee of carnivores, specifically mountain lions, to that of humans or cows. So when you say they prefer cougar pee, we're talking about in more ways than just cloudy with a chance of storming Daniels. But butterflies are opportunists that'll take them from anywhere, and Russian experiments have shown that vampire moths, yeah, them's a thing, are able to use hook-shaped tongues to drill through human skin and feed on the blood. But that was just an experiment. To you watching this, a vampire moth is no risk that we know of. That being said, butterflies are not what you think they are, and the more you learn about them, the more you understand why SpongeBob turned his town into an Avengers end credit after experiencing its mugshot once. The funniest part is, the close-up they crashed out over was actually a horsefly, probably because they knew an actual butterfly would have ruined the animal for an entire generation. Because like I said, no animal has had better PR than a mosquito in drag. In fact, even their name might be a cover-up.
Yeah,
a
but
popular
butterflies
theory
are
is that their
not
original
that.
name
Oh
was
my
actually
God.
Flutterby, and the global game of telephone ended predictably. It's much more likely that it came from the Dutch word butterscheiter, or butter because apparently a butterfly bowel movement looks like a brick of butter. It's not 100% confirmed, but believing otherwise goes against my narrative, so I'm gonna disregard it. Insane intro aside, what is it that makes a butterfly? Because I wasn't kidding. If you're like me, butterflies are not what you think. Like on a scientific level, Lepidoptera represents the order of flying insects that are, well, basically moths and anything that looks like a moth. Butterflies are a relatively small
I think
superfamily
moths
that's
are
less than 10%
much
of the
cuter than
Lepidoptera
butterflies.
party, with a
I think
small
so.
contribution of at
Because
most
they
20,000
don't eat
species.
carcasses.
Everything else is a moth. They go to war, moths clear. There are also skippers, which are technically butterflies, but were such an out-of-character butterfly that science thought it was its own thing. Long story short, it's a butterfly that heavily borrows from the moth's playbook, especially when it comes to flying. Which gets straight up confusing when you realize there's an animal called a moth butterfly that skippers have nothing to do with. But basically, American moth butterflies are that weird, only ever see during the holidays type of family of butterfly that were so weird and mothy, it kept them from the butterfly function until recently. Boring high school sciencey stuff aside, it's a moth's world. Butterflies are just a small part of it. I say that because there will be mentions of moths in this video, and I just know I'd get my Lepidoptera pass checked if I didn't make that clear. Because there's a lot of evolutionary headassery going on with moths, and I'm not about to leave it out on a technicality. So yeah, butterflies are not what you think, even in an artistic sense. That butterfly's dead. If I ask you all to draw a butterfly, chances are 95% of you would draw this, and you would be illustrating a corpse. For some reason, butterflies are often drawn the same way dead ones are pinned and displayed by those who collect them. We basically did a blobfish to the butterfly and immortalized their death pose. A butterfly might hit this pose at some point in its natural life, but most times a butterfly looking like this isn't. But it was. My condolences to anyone watching this and realizing they have a dead winger tattooed on them. So while we did do butterflies dirty there, butterflies don't need help doing that themselves with the things they eat, and that really starts as caterpillars. As you know, butterflies have many forms, and the caterpillar's job is to eat as much as physically possible. Caterpillars have the type of greed they warn you about in the Bible. No other animal reaches such biblical levels of gluttony. A caterpillar can eat 200 times its birth weight in the first 2 weeks, which can become 1,000 times its weight in only 2 months. Now those numbers probably don't hit as hard as a North American silk moth. No animal alive eats more relative to body size than a marauding moth, which will eat 86,000 times its body weight in less than 2 months of life. To keep that same pace, your 7-pound baby would have to scarf 273 metric tons of mass or 601,861 pounds worth of Similac. Pot of greed. Caterpillars eating constantly does have a consequence, and is them being in a perpetual state of dropping bombs. The scientific name for caterpillar waste is frass, and these hedonists pile on the frass by the metric hecton. If you live in the area code of the gypsy moth, then you've likely woken up to the sound of heavy rain with no water, because it was actually the sound of caterpillars mass flooding folks with frass from above. To be fair, if you could get all your lifetime bathroom visits out the way in only a few weeks, in that time the toilet would never not be attached to your cheeks. But another consequence of caterpillars unloading enough bricks to rebuild the city of Gotham, or Newark, is predators like wasps will track them down by following the brown brick road. So many caterpillars can ballistically launch their own fecal matter like a cannonball. The skipper caterpillar can shot put its own product up to 40 times its own body length, which is the equivalent of a man blowing it out the other end over 200 feet. Mind you, the world record for shot put is 77.
This is crazy. I'm worried about caterpillar shit.
The chances a habitual slinger shoots one into your mouth is low. Science won't let it be zero. But they don't always shoot it. Only because caterpillars will also use their poop to manipulate the very plants they eat. Plants don't just get munched on all day and just take it. They'll produce chemicals to repel plant predators like caterpillars. Not only that, but those chemicals are like a cry for help, where one plant being eaten can warn others with its aromatic alarm bell. The catch is, they can only react to one threat at once, and the armyworm caterpillar exploits this by dropping deuces that tricks the plant into thinking it's being attacked by a fungal infection. The plant can only deal with one problem at a time, and while it's crashing out trying to fight a fungus that isn't there, the armyworm has free reign to eat it along with any other plant taking a cue from it. That's diabolical.
Because plants are living, and so they have their own ways of doing things. Some plants can release a chemical that turns caterpillars into cannibals. Apparently, methyl jasmonate is such an insult to a caterpillar's palate that when plants would produce it as a defense, the caterpillars decided they'd rather eat each other instead. Simply not eating is not an option, and the moment a plant becomes less palatable is the moment you see a bunch of sindworms start ripping into each other. Oh my
god. In the plant's defense, caterpillars don't need much to turn on each other, and the moment caterpillars realize there isn't enough milkweed to go around, they'll start aggressively headbutting each other to steal food. So caterpillars don't always choose violence, unless it's food. Then the bulkworm's ready for war. But the reason the hungry caterpillar is more of a curse than a kid's book is because they'll need all that energy for metamorphosis. And if the end game of that wasn't a butterfly, we'd probably look at the whole process differently. You know it starts when hell freezes over and the caterpillar does something wildly out of character. It stops eating. If you keep watching, you'll witness the caterpillar split its skin and then pull its flesh suit down and then writhe around like a foot trying to emancipate itself from a gym sock until the skin suit falls and reveals a gooey casing called the chrysalis. So a quick rundown. The chrysalis is the shell booger the switch up happens in. Pupa usually refers to the life stage this happens in, and the cocoon you may remember hearing about are the silk cases many moths will make as a chrysalis substitute. Some moths don't cocoon, but no butterfly does. Now, the process of metamorphosis is beautiful and has also been associated with rebirth. It might be associated with something else if nature removed the modesty chamber and let you see what actually happens. Inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar releases enzymes to dissolve its tissues, basically digesting itself into almost soup. If you cut the chrysalis, a mess of caterpillar slushy would spill out. The only things that don't turn into Shrek Fest are imaginal discs, and what they are basically whatever they need to be. They're like the blueprint to their adult life, with discs for every butterfly body part like wings, eyes, antennae, and they lay dormant in the constantly eating caterpillar like a sleeper cell. The only thing stopping it from activating is the juvenile hormone in the caterpillar, and the same way neutering neophytes kept castratos sounding young, the hormone Peter Pans the caterpillar and keeps them young so they can keep eating like nature's favorite feedie. Once the hormone drops, the caterpillar pupates, and those sleeper cell imaginal discs use the protein-fueled former caterpillar to fuel rapid cell division. The process isn't one-to-one for every caterpillar, but that's pretty much the spark notes. Monarch butterflies occupy a chrysalis anywhere from 10 to 14 days.
Some, like desert orange tips, will wait years, some say even close to a decade, for the right conditions to pop out. Another fact is that adult butterflies can remember part of their lives as caterpillars, even with their time as butterfly broth in between. Science shows that caterpillars conditioned to avoid certain smells through electrical shocks go on to show the same discernment as flying adults. I feel like that's way cooler than people give credit for, but
this is the one based on
Caterpie. Remember their past lives of greed,
this Caterpie
which might be why many moths don't have mouths altogether. Okay, that's a joke. Well, not the no mouth thing. The Luna moth is only alive for as long as its caterpillar past ate for. But the reason is because the same way a caterpillar's job is only to eat, once they can fly, their main priority is getting laid. Flutterbys have one job, and it's to mate, and some moths take the sentiment literally. Because a closed mouth won't get fed, but no mouth might get oh, my bad. I mean her abdomen. Touching abdomens is how butterflies mate, and the process is much less innocent than you want to believe. Yeah, it's about that time. Almost every messed up thing about butterflies comes down to them catching a date. Butterflies will use several factor authentication like sound, color, even flight patterns to choose a mate, but the real secret sauce are pheromones. Males use pheromones like a calling card, and many moths and butterflies have a hair pencil to help get the message out further. Also called the coromata, it's a scent organ that inflates and fans out pheromones to anyone who might be interested. And with over 180,000 species of moths and not moths, someone was bound to take it too far. And Creatinos Genghis shows you just how far love makes some guys go. If it's any solace, a horny male moth can't fly with its coromata out. Life finds a way. Also, yes, Australia. Males use the food they collected as caterpillars to help fuel pheromones, which is why it's often the males you'll see puddling the juices out of a compost pile, especially since the chemicals are more for just attracting mates. After mating, male butterflies will often spray their partners with an anti-aphrodisiac that makes the female completely unattractive to other males. That wouldn't even be that bad, but parasites like wasps clock the method, so now I got wasps tracking a recently deflowered female by her anti-aphrodisiac after spray and hitching a ride on her, waiting until the female lays eggs so the stowaway can parasitize them. The end game is her larva getting eaten from the inside by a brood of xenomorphs. Luckily, in studies, less than 10% of wasps were successful, but that's what an insecure man can do to you. But some males don't stop at man repellent. Some went ahead and invented chastity belts. Few males will excrete this weird, waxy substance designed to plug up his partner's female parts, which physically seals her off from other males. It's a literal breeding block, but that leaves a problem. It's in the female's best interest to mate with as many males as possible, but it also behooves the male to brute force monogamy, which has led to this evolutionary arms race, with females flexing increasingly harder to plug junk and males producing even more blobs of scabby petroleum jelly. But that is far from the most felonious way males buff their chances. Some people have experienced the rare occurrence of two butterflies in one chrysalis. Really, it's the scene of a crime. Some, like the zebra longwing, won't even wait until the female is fresh out the pupa stage. As the female's getting ready to break out of the chrysalis, a gang of males can swarm her and start fighting for position. The winner then rips into her chrysalis to mate with her while she's still stuck in the stage. There's a term for this. Some call it pupa erosion. Now, insects can't really consent, so maybe that's too far, so forced copulation is a nicer way to describe it. But the rising female has zero choice in the matter when she basically gets spawn camped, and that just feels illegal. Still just butterflies, right? But when you only have a couple weeks to live, you pull out all the stops to make sure your genes don't pass tense with you. And it's why male butterflies are more likely to suck the sweat off your back. Not only do those nutrients help form pheromones, during mating, males will pass off nutrients to the female as a sort of consummation gift that helps the eggs, and in some species, the males will transfer 25% of their body weight in the process. Which explains why male butterflies are crackheads when it comes to some mineral, and some males take it so far, science had to invent a whole nother word for what they do. Because in North Sulawesi and Indonesia, and people butterflies were seen harassing, scratching, and eventually sucking the juices out of caterpillars. The same claws they use to scratch the sweet out of leaves, they'll use on a caterpillar until their internal essence spills out, and at that point, the butterfly treats its own kind like a juice box, which led to the term kleptopharmacology. Because they're not exactly preying on the pillars, more than just stealing their substance, and a lot of times the caterpillars actually survive. Although knowing that they keep their memories as adults, probably not without PTSD. I think I'd rather die. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. If you come away from this video thinking less of butterflies or even hating them, then I failed at my job. I never want to be the reason y'all hate an animal when there isn't an animal alive that I hate. There's no cutaway. I meant that.
The butterfly didn't ask to be put on a pedestal. If learning more about them ruins them, that is a failure of your own expectations. And to steal a line from friend of the channel, Hank Green, butterflies aren't here to please us. Their beauty is an accident, and we are merely spectators. Especially when the monarch population is down 99%. That's the scariest thing about them. Also, I want to thank y'all so much for 4 million subscribers. I've said it before, but y'all have changed the trajectory of my life in ways you cannot even begin to imagine. I got a lot more stuff planned, promises to keep. I did not forget to check.
He's really entertaining. I really like. I learn a lot. It's
whatever
crazy,
the top
though.
comment says, within reason.
Anyway,
been a minute since I said this.
Wow.
Drink water, hug your mother, save the butterflies, fam.
Yeah, I think they're very
in the next one.
Yeah, it's like the moment they're out of the maybe it makes sense that butterflies are like essential like a sex like image, you know, like because they are very yeah, I didn't think they were like that. I really didn't think they were like that. But now I understand why butterfly can be like a sex symbol in a way. Like sometimes, you know, especially, and it kind of almost makes me feel like they're more like almost like masculine. Now that I know a little bit more about them, that's quite insane. That is wow. I still think butterflies are pretty though. Oh, I see, Mega. I see. I understand. Mega points it out.
If you have nothing else to be grateful for, get on your knees and be glad that if you have 99 problems, avoiding predators ain't one. I hope. Otherwise, you should probably get on your knees. Predators have petrified us for as long as cavemen had consciousness, simply off the fact that just seeing one implies many others had to die. But for many, it's not what they can do to you, it's how. And these are the top 10 worst animals to be hypothetically hunted by. And spoiler, it gets a lot less hypothetical as the list goes on. The only rule is, I won't be talking about sea stars or crocodiles, only because I just made videos on both. Trust and believe they're both very qualified to be here. And if that disappoints you, here's a consolation prize.
Sea stars. Number 10.
There's a lot of things to be afraid of being marooned on an island. Dehydration, exposure, but most don't consider being culled by crabs. And that's because, outside of remote islands in the Indian and Pacific Ocean, the coconut crab is only found in a very bad trip. Despite its name, coconuts are an insignificant part of a juiced up hermit crab's diet, but that didn't stop nature from equipping them with claws that can splice the fruit open. Besides, their street name is more lore accurate, as they're also called robber crabs, since they'll swarm your camp and carry off anything that ain't nailed down. The problem is, that's also how they hunt. In 2016, scientists watched as a coconut crab climbed a tree and attacked a sleeping bird, snapping its wings only to continue its death grip after they both fell on the ground. Within minutes, several other crabs spawned in and proceeded to shred the barely breathing bird for hours. The crawling antichrists are scavengers with bloodlust, so getting gored by one means you'll certainly be maimed by more, and the fact that they can climb and track blood means there's nowhere on the island you can go where the Krusty Krab crew won't find you. The crabs are any-can animals, as in anything can get it. Rats, cats, even full-grown pigs can get flesh stripped, but the most disturbing stories are those of coconut crabs eating humans. One gruesome account followed the 82-day Battle of Okinawa, where Japanese soldiers bore witness to hordes of giant spider-like crabs ravaging the bodies of their dead comrades. There's no real proof that this happened, or that it even involved coconut offenders, but unfortunately, that's exactly how the crabs would have acted. Imagine a gang of armored cockroaches carrying the jaws of life, except the outcome of getting caught between them is quite the opposite. And with a diet of detritus, most coconut crabs are poisonous to eat, especially since many have the habit of eating sea mangoes, a fruit so toxic it has another name. The Sardus apple. By far, the scariest theory, though, is that it was coconut crabs that perp-walked Amelia Earhart off the census. Scary because whether she was past tense on arrival or incapacitated a plane crash would not have changed the response by the crabs. And while it's just a theory, the idea that someone's last moments could be spent desperately dragging their
people are like 100%
body,
sure
an army
that
of
she
crabs
was
brutally
eaten by
mutilates
them.
them for hours as their suffering only draws more is enough to earn them a spot on this list. And yet, they're only number 10.
They're only number 10. That's crazy.
Most people aren't afraid of the
You have
dark.
to be careful eating mangoes in the islands.
Thalassophobia is that before the ocean, but not a lot of people are afraid of the sky. Probably because you should be able to see what's coming. That's why the harpy eagle is number 9, because if this is your predator, you will never know peace. They're one of the biggest eagles on the planet, but what makes harpies built different is that their wings are way shorter, which means the harpy aimbot can chase you through the trees in a way no eagle ever should. Just imagine a homicidal hippogriff breaking into your house and snatching your little brother out of his bed. And now you understand the generational PTSD
oh my God,
the monkeys
no.
on their wheel prep carry. And those claws guarantee you don't get the chance to find out twice. The size of a grizzly bear's mitt with the grip force of a Rottweiler's jaws. You can actually hear the bones of their prey breaking as the harpies crush the life out of them. And safe to say, the same feet that can crack open an armadillo would not feel good to have gripping your skull. It is incredibly rare, but there are cases of harpy eagles attacking and clawing humans, where the eagle's leg had to be amputated because even after death, the talons wouldn't release their grip. In 2023, tourists in French Guiana walked past a perching harpy when it suddenly went for one of the women, plunging its claws into her scalp and leaving her with several deep lacerations. The concept of being jump scared by a plus-size prehistoric Freddy Krueger cockatoo spikes my cortisol, but they rarely go after humans, and when they do, the fault's usually the humans. The next animal not only punished a good deed of one man, it became one of the worst animal attacks in Brazilian history.
Wow, I didn't even know that. So
Australia gets the reputation for being Satan's sandbox, but not enough people give credit to the sheer insanity of the Amazon. What's a jaguar's favorite exercise? Skull crushers. Not to mention you have a Jurassic reject in anaconda, an animal that weaponizes electricity and we all decided that was okay, and a fish that convinced thousands to never pee in a river. Yet the apex predator of the Amazon isn't actually a jaguar. To be fair, the giant river otter is also called the Ariana, or the water jaguar, but with its attitude and aptitude for gang violence, it's more like an unhinged water wolf. That gang mentality is how a group can make a jaguar hit the reverse with no key, and it's already bad enough that the roid weasel can grow to 6 feet long without the fact that they'll also roll in the pack. It's an apex predator that eats mostly fish, but they'll also fold crustaceans, anaconda, and even other river otters will adjust their routine to avoid getting run up on by a crazy-eyed cousin. You don't realize what multiple are capable of until you realize how bad they do caiman. Giant river otters will jump a caiman, overwhelming it until its muscles fill with lactic acid and it's virtually paralyzed. It's been said before, but that is an honest erectile dysfunction, and otter mafia will eviscerate the caiman alive, ripping it to pieces, while also sounding like if Rugrats took place in purgatory.
Oh my God.
Imagine not knowing what river otters are and hearing that for the first time. The worst part is, it's been proven
look
the same hunting tactic against a human.
They look like actually like deranged.
Silvio Delmar Hollenbach was a Brazilian army sergeant who had taken his family to the Brasilia Zoo when a bunch of commotion got his attention. A 13-year-old had fallen into one of the moats and now was being threatened by the animals in it. Hollenbach said, "Don't hold me back," and without thinking, leapt into the pool and lifted the injured kid out. Sadly, that meant the focus of the family of vindictive otters was now on Silvio, and a gang of aggressives dragged the struggling Hollenbach into the water and brutally mauled him in front of his family. Silvio would be pulled out, but the over 100 bite wounds in water that was the equivalent of a microbe mosh pit sealed his fate, as he would die of a nasty infection. Hollenbach was mourned and celebrated by everyone, except the boy Insane, who apparently never even mustered a thank you. The same 13-year-old that got a man turned into a chew toy would be arrested in 2016 after scamming millions worth of pension money, proving that sometimes being a hero only means saving a villain. Getting mauled and borderline waterboarded by water wolverines is a horrendous way to go out, but again, the chances you get got by otters is still low.
You literally got
Silvio,
saved and you turned out to be a fucking asshole.
But the next animal is the mascot of F Around and Find Out.
Dude, they took a real one from us, like an actual hero.
The Cape buffalo makes no sense on this list. Until you remember, it's one of the few prey animals that actually hunts predators. The tank, nicknamed Black Death, is arguably the most death-edging animal to hunt because it is a top 5 most vengeful creature on Earth. A common misconception is that the lion's biggest rival is the hyena. That's laughable when a 1,200-pound piss fit can send a big cat
Holy shit,
the Cape buffalo is number 7 because cows are dangerous enough, but if Widowmaker tastes death, the rage cow ensures you go down with it. The Cape buffalo has treed lions for hours, and they'll stalk lion cubs just for the purpose of stomping them out. Now add that the bush mafia can pull up in a super herd of over 1,000. Now you understand how lions risk going full-time horizontal every time they try them. And with a couple hundred people bored and killed by them a year, this is the first animal here with a respectable body count.
God,
the problem is every year people hunt them without realizing the buffaloes hunt back. An injured buffalo has been known to retreat to tall grass to lure you in and stalk you, just to rear-end you when your back is turned, and keep going until
and they're
you
brutal.
stop
You get rear-ended by one of those. Goodbye.
Straight up watch you get got, or in some cases gift wrap you themselves. Cape buffalo will spin the block for a predator in an effort 1,000 times John Wick. You know you're dealing with a menace when you're talking about a cow using the honey badger method on a lion, and some people have to be connected to God's Wi-Fi before they understand. Texas trophy hunter Asher Watkins thought it was sweet until his target attacked him first, completely ambushing him. The spite-fueled beef struck Watkins at 35 miles per hour, tearing his chest and stomach open, and he was declared dead in the ambulance. A tragic death, but definitely not unprovoked. Imagine walking through a corn maze knowing you're one wrong turn away from a buffalo same-day shipping you to the Lord like an afterlife Amazon package.
It's crazy. Yeah,
On several islands throughout Indonesia, you'll find a dinosaur time left behind. The Komodo dragon is one of those predators where, once they start hunting you, you're as good as dead. The Komodo is everything scary about coconut crabs, but on that Jurassic juice. Komodos will eat everything, and it's why baby dragons will hide up in the trees or even roll around in feces because the adults are highly cannibalistic. The steroid giga iguana also has the unfortunate habit of unearthing human graves and feeding on the long expired remains. The Komodo dragon only has about 12 successful hunts a year, so when one makes you a priority, prepare to spend days tailgated by a murderous monitor lizard. In 2008, 5 scuba divers were caught in a riptide and swept out to sea, and after 12 hours spent drifting the aquatic void, they landed on Rinca Island, where they spent the next 5 days playing cat and mouse with a monster resident dragon that took notice and stalked them, which isn't easy, thanks to another unfortunate habit of theirs. We used to think Komodos were one-shot specialists that only needed to bite you once and then just wait for you to fold to bacterial infection. And as cold as that would be, it's like LeBron letting you get the ball just to spank it off the backboard. The truth is more disturbing. Komodos don't just let their prey go, but their contingency plan is if you do get away, the glorified gecko can track you by blood, and anticoagulants in their venom keep you bleeding. So now it becomes a broken game of hide and seek.
Cow,
playing it on an island the size of Philly means there's no point in the area code you can go where the leather bloodhound won't find you. Even worse, the longer you manage to play manhunt with monitors, the more dragons will be there to eviscerate you when you do fall. That blood sense is no joke. Menstruating women are actually advised against visiting for fear that the resident garbage disposals confuse them for a dying animal.
Oh my god!
Bleeding tourists lying to their guides to not miss out on the trip.
I never want to see one of these ever. I never want, especially if I'm on my period.
And if you think there's no way an animal moving like that can catch you slipping, millions of years of evolution would argue. One incident saw 2 dragons stalking a fruit picker from below a tree, and when Muhammad Anwar fell, the Komodos rushed him and mauled him to death. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Or maybe you haven't heard a baby goat scream from inside of a dragon.
Oh my god.
To say that the ocean terrifies me beyond comprehension is an understatement, and the animal that scares me more than any other isn't a shark, isn't an orca, not even a giant squid, but not a squid. Because I'd rather go skinny dipping around great white sharks than ever catch a Humboldt squid in the wild. At only up to 6 feet long, they're not the biggest, but everything about the way they feed fuels my nightmares. When a hunting Humboldt homes in on something, they'll approach it with all 10 appendages extended to grab prey and force it towards its mouth, and not only can that beak slice skin and cut chainmail, they do it so fast that they can grab and retract prey in just one camera frame. Not to mention, they have 2 tentacles with suckers that contain inner teeth. Great for grabbing, but the real reason a Humboldt is number 5 is because the way they would hunt you is straight out of a Stephen King wet dream. Humboldts can hunt in parties over 1,000 strong, and they're also highly aggressive speed-eating gluttons that'll strip fish down to the bones before fishermen even have time to reel them up. They're also trigger happy with the cannibalism, and the moment one of their own shows weakness, it gets jumped and torn to shreds. The problem with Humboldts is they speedrun life so fast, they're never not thinking about food. And if you find yourself in the waters at the wrong time, you can get mauled by a pack of fleshy armed box cutters. But it's the intelligence that's the biggest problem, because Humboldts aren't always aggro. They can be curious too, and they'll often steal cameras and lights just to take them apart and examine them. But Humboldts can go from 0 to homicide in seconds, and because they communicate by flashing red in a sea of black, once one says go, many more will follow. One diver was approached by a squid who gently started nibbling on him, and the diver, who probably couldn't believe his luck, started filming. And in seconds, the squid started pulsing red, and the man was immediately slammed by multiple as they simultaneously began to pull him into the abyss. He would escape, but he genuinely thought his ticket to Tupac was booked, and there's many more stories of divers being confronted by squids and nearly dragged to the point of no return, and some even swear they've had Humboldts attempt to rip off their masks and drown them. But going back to the first diver, I think the most disturbing part is the moment he didn't fight back and let himself look easy was the moment he became a green light to a red devil. The last unfortunate fact is that Humboldts will perform diel vertical migrations, where every day they rise from the depths to hunt before eventually going back down. So they're more likely to run into you during goblin mode. Unfortunately for the next animal, goblin mode is their entire life.
Suddenly, I feel like I want to eat
You've probably heard that there's few animals that actively hunt humans.
And I really hope that they catch Humboldt squids to make them into squid meat.
They just passively don't give a follow me now. Polar bears are the largest predators on land, and as big as you think they are, I swear to you they're bigger. The problem starts with the fact that they're the only hyper-carnivore bear. They eat meat, and meat stands for Merc every and any time, and it can make up 95% of their diet, where in something like a grizzly bear, it can be as low as 10. That would be bad enough, but polar bears also live in a freeze-dried desert where in the winter, they can only live off of feces, foxes, and other fallen polar bears. Polar bears have way less options, and with the sea ice they depend on receding, they can either get creative or get cremated. So they don't actively hunt humans, the same way I don't actively grocery shop for Chips Ahoy, but best believe if I see them, I'ma grab it. That's the polar bear, except they don't have to see you. With the best nose of any predator, a polar bear can smell a seal from miles away. They can detect their breathing hole from another area code and can even clock a seal under a foot of ice. So it's really true, if a polar bear sees you, it's already too late. From 1870 to 2014, there have been only 73 attacks on humans, with 20 census subtractions. But being targeted by the ultimate predator of persistence is a different level of fear. In 2016, 5 Russian scientists were held hostage by over 10 polar bears, who stalked their weather station and forced them to have supplies and flares airdropped by helicopter. In 2019, 50 polar bears invaded the town of Novaya Zemlya and put them in a state of emergency, where people were afraid to leave their houses and refused to let their children go to school. And with shooting them being illegal, folks had to bear this reverse Goldilocks situation unarmed. And I mean that literally, with ice bears breaking into residential buildings. Polar bears are a force of nature, and number 4, because once one chooses you, you can't run fast enough or swim far enough to be safe. One swam over 400 miles in just 9 days, so trust that you would not get away. But there's always been something about a carnivorous Q-tip that unsettled me, and I think I figured it out. Polar bears are a lot like the squid, where they're incredibly curious and intelligent, which makes the way they hunt and engage in general seem cold and calculated. You'll often notice in a lot of videos where they approach humans, the polar bears seem quiet and emotionless, and you can almost see them trying to figure it out. And their face expressions and body language tell you nothing. A polar bear pulling up on you can be curious, apathetic, or ready to revoke your presence, and you will not know which. And that's just it. They're disturbingly deadpan. And I think that's by design. Most black and brown bear attacks are defensive, meaning they either had cubs around or you managed to catch them off guard, and most times they'll give you many signs that you're effing around in the jurisdiction of finding out. A polar bear doesn't, because oftentimes a polar bear isn't trying to negotiate or communicate. With you, it's trying to eat you while weighing the cost. So what often makes them look cute and innocent is actually them being apathetic, emotionless terminators. Because remember, they don't fear humans the same way their cousins do, and most encounters are on the polar bear's terms. So it's true when they say, if it's black, push back. If it's brown, retire to the ground. And if it's white like a sheep, you finna go to sleep. Color of a beluga, last time talking to you. And white like a picket fence means you wake up past tense.
Oh my god.
Number 3 and number 2 are both interchangeable. It just depends on which movie scares you more. A gross out body horror slasher flick, or a psychological mental health massacre. If you pick psychological, wait for number 2. And if you pick slasher, well, you probably already know how horrific it is being hunted by chimps. The sick joke is, less than 5% of their diet is meat. Yet in places like Ngogo and Uganda, they can have a success rate of 80%, and it's because the way they hunt is coordinated and calculated. First, you have drivers, and their job is to pressure prey into the trees without actually trying to catch them. The moment you try to climb, you've screwed yourself, because there's also blockers whose job is to limit any possible escape routes and make a literal jungle gym even smaller. So now you gotta avoid them while being chased through the trees by chasers. The last role are the chimps smart enough to anticipate where you'll try to escape and will camp themselves in the perfect spot to snatch you if you pass by. It's painfully effective,
Holy
and once something like a
cow.
colobus monkey is caught, it's immediately crippled and eviscerated into several pieces. I genuinely have to be careful with what I show y'all. Just know that monkey's still alive and he gets his arm snapped after all that. Chimpanzees are number 3 because they might have the most brutal ways of past tensing prey, and they don't discriminate. Chimps are on record ambushing families of gorillas, frightening the females and running fades with a silverback, and kidnapping any babies to remove
It's just
them.
chimps
They're
in
not the only
general.
babies at risk, and viewer discretion is advised. As habitat loss and food shortages have pushed humans and chimps together, there have been more cases of chimpanzees snatching human children with chilling results. One human toddler was viewer discretion, I mean it this time. One human toddler was grabbed by a big male, and in less than a minute, he broke his arm, beat his head in, and even disemboweled the boy and removed his kidneys. Being hunted by chimps is like playing death tag with parkour-capable pack hunting zombies.
I didn't
but
think they
luckily,
were that
meat isn't their
fucking
main food, and
dangerous.
attacks are still relatively rare, which is why I have tigers at 2. Tigers don't actively hunt humans, but living on top of each other for centuries is why tigers have the highest human body count of any animal on this list.
Yeah.
Folks traditionally wore masks backwards in order to discourage the tiger into thinking he had lost the element of surprise. But it's believed the trick was spammed too hard and now the tigers are catching on. But intelligence is the second scariest thing about them. Number 1 is, they are the most vengeful animals on the planet. Black Death be damned. Piss off a tiger, and you might not live to regret it. You may have heard of the poacher that shot a tiger and stole part of its kill, so the tiger tracked him down all the way to his cabin, destroyed anything that smelled like the poacher, including his mattress, just to John Wick the man when he eventually returned home. Tatiana the tiger proved that you don't have to be in the wild to find out, after she escaped her San Francisco enclosure to track down and savage the men that had taunted her. But by far, the most notorious tiger in history was the Devil of Champawat. This was a Bengal tiger who had gotten her canine teeth broken, likely by a human, which meant she could no longer hunt her normal prey. The result was she started stalking humans, and the endgame was the man-eater of Champawat destroyed 436 people, eluding poachers and hunting parties and somehow always knowing when to leave an area and lay low. Tigers are quick and efficient. They take you out and then return back to the shadows, and honestly, I'd probably die of an anxiety attack long before a feline flatline. They don't
I don't
usually
think
go
I'll
out of
ever
their way, but all the extra
be one of those
exposure
people
around
that want to go to
humans has shown us
safari to
exactly
see
what
them.
tigers
Hell
are capable
no.
of, and the worst part is they could easily be scarier. The reason tigers are orange is because orange isn't a concept to the animals they do prey on, and if we were on that list, this is what the world's biggest whiskered reaper would look like, and it's still not number 1.
Oh my god, dude.
Orcinus orca is the most oppressive predator on the planet, and at this point there's not much I can say that you don't already know. You know they're intelligent, but what genuinely surprised me is they take very few risks. If prey has the smallest chance of fighting back, orcas will move the needle to 0 before they move in. Not only that, but their methods change depending on the target. That's why they'll soul slap a stingray before it can sting. That's why they'll immobilize sharks before they can bite. And it's why they'll up smash a seal as high as they go like Super Smash Bros. But they don't neutralize prey just to be safe to eat. They'll turn a dying animal into a life lesson. In that same stingray clip, a family of orcas toyed with the half-alive stingray before letting its body sink into the abyss when they were done. I genuinely believe the stingray was slapped by the orca grandmother, and the rest of the pod was playing with it in order to learn how to deal with one, and when the lesson was over, they had no further use for him. It's not cruelty, it's communal calculation, but it is why orcas are the most fear-inspiring, heart-retiring predators to have, and if you're still not convinced, let me tell you a story that still sticks.
Womp womp.
One grandmother orca was not only smart enough to memorize when elephant seals in the Falklands would breed, she knew exactly where and what time the tide would be high enough to hold her. This 20-foot Type A dolphin basically staked out the nursery pool until the tide got high enough. High enough for her to seemingly spawn out of nowhere and abduct a defenseless seal pup, where she then dragged the seal out to sea as a practice dummy. For the next several hours, her family toyed with and tormented the baby seal, with the pup alive for most of it. Again, it's not evil or torture, but it is how orcas polish their prowess. But for the seal, that's stranger danger on steroids, and one of the worst ways to go out. Slowly, and with zero hope. And now you see why great whites will piece out of a favorite hunting ground for a calendar year if they have a run-in with an op dolphin. And why humpbacks feel the way they do. We're talking about animals that'll roleplay as prey and practice drowning each other before they try it on a baby blue whale. It's not an act of malice more than survival. Simply a skill surplus for them and a skill issue for everyone else.
The laws
I won't
of
slander
nature,
them, but I definitely pity their prey more than anything else's. But I gotta come clean. I did lie to you. They're actually not the most oppressive predator on the planet. That would be...
Wait, what?
Take away the guns, the technology, and everything else. The very foundation of how humans hunt makes them the most horror movie predators
definitely.
ever. Simply put, imagine a predator you can never run away from. You can get ahead. You can even get out of their sight, yet every time you turn to the horizon, they're there.
They're there.
They're not even tired, but you are. You're exhausted. You're thirsty and about to drop from heat stroke, yet there they are, not missing a beat, barely breaking a sweat. Hell, you can't even sweat. Not like them, and it's killing you. You look in the distance, and to your dismay, here they come again. This time, you don't have the strength to get back up. They're slow, but persistent, like an immortal snail that never stops. They run you into the ground, waste you without even touching you, and come sunrise, they're ready to do it all again. You just won't be there to see it. You're finally here. They literally walk you down knowing you're at your limit. One raises its stick, you close your eyes,
true.
you breathe your last breath, they took all you had left, just like they take everything else. Your story's over, but the ending was authored long before you first ran. It's not your fault. It's not evil or a crime, but it is what happens when you meet the scariest predator of all time.
We must eat. Is that the It looks like the golfer thing. Is the how did this became the? Wait, I want to know about this guy. Is that the guy that go? I know that meme very well. Yeah, I still think the most scariest one from there was the freaking the dude. I didn't know the Komodo dragon was so scary.
Just some BS with fur. Default mammal. Bro is just a temple thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Just a random effing thing. Login reward. This might be the worst one.
Login reward.
The internet decided to have a cultural campfire, but instead of roasting marshmallows, Nature's Untitled Project got flamed with every way to say they're easy to draw. Straight bullying a beta test. You got folks saying we never officially discovered this mammal until someone went into a pet store and asked for an animal. John Mammal, they're calling him. They're slandering the life out of my guy. I gotta say something. Especially with his big homie on my chest. This potato vampire is a Hyrax, and they did not evolve for 50 million years just to get called a furry template. Bro is literally in the Bible. Especially when the imitation bunny's closest relatives are elephants, which everyone loves, and manatees, which laws had to stop people from loving. The same animal folks are calling the first interaction in a tutorial is cousins with the most iconic animal on Earth. But it's not like there aren't signs. Hyraxes have the same tusks for fighting and female validation, although the bar for impressive is lower than their balls are. Because having an internal coin purse is another thing they have in common. To be fair, Hyraxes have a lot in common with a lot of animals. Let's count them out. If conversion eats 2 roads, that boy's a roundabout. Done stole so many animals, Flo. If this were a Pokemon, he'd be Plagiario. They took the elephant's tusk and toes. They have a jaw you'd expect on a rhinoceros. A Pika plus build with marmot for measure. But only one reps the rodent varsity sweater. It's a miscellaneous mammal nature uploaded at the last moment. They're such trash thermal regulators, they're more reptile than rodent. As a partially cold-blooded concept, most of the Hyrax's energy comes from charging in the sun, giving it the same pastime as the Viscacha. But they're less efficient than the Sensei Gerber, where Viscachas may spend a quarter of their time sunbathing. This sentient 1159 project submission has about 5% of its life when it's not just sitting idly. Hyrax has inherited the koala problem, but at least koalas have the excuse of poor diet. Nature greenlit the mammal version of batteries sold separately. They didn't ask for any of this, yet the internet has been cooking them like they come with XP, when obviously this organism dies and offers 0, which isn't just outrageous slander for an animal name dropped in the holy book, and whose poop has been used in perfumes. It just shows you how fast the internet will turn on you. Seems like just yesterday people were hyping up the Hyrax, making them viral every time they made a sound, just to today act like they haven't been around. There's so much more that meets the eye with the organism of all time. Like the fact this template has 6 different types. You got the rock Hyrax, the most common and iconic of the Raxes. Although being the most iconic of an animal called a placeholder is like winning prom queen of a homeschool. Just know that if you see a dozen on your feet, it's probably a rock Hyrax. And these Rockies have enough clout to be the VIP member of the Brocavia Hyrax genus, but only because they're the only living member of it. There's 3 Hyrax genuses, and Hetero Hyrax is home to the Bush Hyrax. You're forgiven if you can't tell them apart. Nature's Xerox to Xerox. It's not your fault. The Bush Rax looks like it tried to implement the same mask method to farm empathy, but like everything else, it was a poor imitation. They're smaller than rock Hyraxes, but again, no hard feelings if you can't differentiate. The chances I mixed up the pictures in this section are lower than the chances someone's gonna care enough to notice. But the Bush Rax's defining trait is that their distress stem basically define the entire species.
I said, look at me. You're becoming famous on the internet because of me, so try and show a little appreciation. Okay.
Yeah, that's the Awawa. And he's
Oh
telling
my
you to make
God.
like Michael Jackson and beat it. And the third genus is Dendrohyrax, which actually has 4 species: the southern, eastern, western,
goes, "Wait,
and
wait."
the Benin tree hyrax. Same ideas, different font. The western looks like he's seen some shit, and chances are it was his reflection. It's the only hyrax that looks like it has to be held back, because he
looks like a
decided he'd
rat.
rather look like a boar than be one. The eastern tree hyrax looks like the
It
shiny
looks like a
Pokemon of the bunch.
rat.
And they're a regular part of the diets of leopards, eagles, and pythons.
Oof.
They're just the part that says etc. The southern tree hyrax is interesting in that it'll rapidly bounce on the ground to travel when excited, which is what you're looking at right now, so long as someone cared enough to record it. Now they say their status is of least concern, but I'd say their blood-curdling night screams are mildly concerning. Speaking of Scream,
my
the last
God.
member is the Benin tree hyrax, and I say that because they were discovered in 2021.
That's very different from-
It was because of their scream. You see, scientists who weren't even checking for them, they were looking for bush babies. That's a bush baby. But heard enough of this weird
bush
barking sound that
baby.
they eventually isolated and studied it, and these sounds were so distinctive, they realized it came from an entirely different species. Mind you, they clocked these calls back in 2009, but the Benin wasn't identified until over a decade later. Imagine screaming for attention for years only to be discovered by accident by people looking for someone else. And apparently, Benin skulls were already in scientists' possession, but they never noticed because, in their words, they just assumed they were all the same. Best believe Hyraxes wouldn't be getting this level of disrespect back in the day, because Titanohyrax Ultimus would have been big enough to mog a rhino. But Hyrax Ultimus Prime
Whoa.
died out and left us with a miscellaneous tater tot. And miscellaneous is the best way to describe the family.
Miscellaneous.
Hyraxes are part of the Afroteria reunion, and you couldn't pick out a more random assortment of characters on a 3 a.m. gas station line. You obviously have the Hyrax and the elephant, along with a group certain people confuse for mermaids, the manatee and dugong, or just the sea cows.
Dugong.
But you also have
The
my 4th
sea
grade
cow.
fixation, the aardvark, the elephant shrew, which is actually more elephant than shrew, in fact not even a true shrew, the golden mole, which isn't a true mole, in fact underground and undercover makes it more of a mole, the otter shrew, which is nary a true shrew, but what else is new, and the tenric, which is a hedgehog nature tried redrawing from memory.
What
Now
the
the
hell is
non-evolution folk
that?
might have an argument, because how do you explain this sober? Well, I'ma try. You see, 2 things happened. One was the Dinosaur Stranglehold on the World was released when a mountain-sized meteoric plot device blew their shit smooth off the census. In Space Jam terms, the Monstars took a crowbar to the knee and head trimmers to the Achilles, allowing the smaller mammalian Looney Tunes to really get on the board. But the other domino fell long before, with Africa separating from the supercontinent of Gondwana, completely isolated until she eventually crashed into Eurasia. I'm not 100% on the dates, but that's still tens of millions of years after
Yeah, it's a
Spain
long
as a massive
time.
island. And with an even bigger dinosaur-sized niche left behind, the mammals on it got to work. Think of Australia. You got a max security prison deer, an actual sloth bear, hijos de satanas, and many, many more. And they're all marsupials. Because marsupials were all the Australian island had.
Wait,
Those
what's
niches
the
were
one
gonna
on
be
the
filled
right on the
somehow.
bottom
But my
next to
favorite
me?
example is
What
the
was
fact that
that?
Madagascar had no apex big cat predator. So a steroid mongoose took the spot. What
The
you saw with
steroid
Marsupial
mongoose?
Mafia and the Afro Order was adaptive radiation, where a single common ancestor diversified
Oh, it's
to
the
occupy
Tasmanian
all the
devil?
sudden
He was
vacancies.
cute.
And Afroteria diversified into straight nonsense. Basically, it was the ganglet split up of evolution. And you can only imagine the reaction the Hyrax got at the reunion. I'm sure Titanohyrax tried their best at the big man's game, but getting outcompeted by those that played the big boy build better had the remaining Hyraxes living in the woodworks like rodents. But you'd expect an imitation rat to belong with the not a shrew,
That's
not
exactly
a
what
mole,
happened,
and nature's
guys. There was
left-handed
no
hedgehog and
no
played
predator.
Afro-insectophilia. But nah, the Hyrax got cast in the Penungulata portion. Penungulata. Basically, almost ungulates. Ungulates are the many animals that walk on hooves. Yes, that's a whale. The hippo must have gave him a guest pass. Having almost hooves means elephants and sea cows have toenails. So does a Hyrax. Not a hoof, but close. They also
Oh,
have the same tusks that were
true.
just pimped out incisors. But Hyraxes chew like they were raised by ruminants, chewing from side to side to grind it out like a giraffe. You might not have noticed because Hyraxes do it so fast. And when's the last time you looked a Hyrax in the mouth? Because you might have noticed they look like they have tiny rhino skulls augmented into their heads. So you see, the animal Twitter called just a random thing is actually the peak form for the life they live, from the size to the teeth to the toes. Speaking of toes,
Yeah, that's
downboy,
true.
those beans have a purpose, and rubbery soles with a concave surface creates a suction cup that's a cheat code for gripping rocks. It's how Raxes can go goat and climb vertical surfaces. It's also how Hyraxes literally climb into our lives.
Hyraxes have the habit of hitching rides where nature had not intended. In addition to being capybara copyright infringement, it should be no surprise to see the animal someone called the Nepo hire of its family being hard carried by something else. But they've also started scoring free rides on something slightly faster than a tortoise. There's a genuine trend of South Africans finding their cars colonized by desies. Apparently the underside of a car is like a wet dream to a crevice merchant, and people have accidentally Ubered this stowaway across South Africa. And like clockwork, they often don't get noticed until they start screaming, or the smell of their excess alerts you. One Hyrax spent 4 days as an undercarriage carry-on after joining a family's 2.5-hour trip from Cedarburg to Worcester. Another family came home from vacation to find 4 of them splunking in their car engine. And you can't just evict them when you find them, because desies are highly territorial, and getting spawned on enemy grounds will get them murked by the residents. According to the Cape of Good Hope SPCA, if you find a Hyrax up your chassis, you do not attempt to remove, or else they might show you what that tusk do. Best thing you can do is bait them out with like peanut butter or something and then trap them and wait for your local SPCA to come handle it. But even then, you probably don't want to take matters in your own hands. Not only because you have no way of knowing when or where the Hyrax hopped on, there's a non-zero chance he doesn't just abandon your car and immediately head for the next one over, just transferring the problem to someone else. Truly the best way to help a Hyrax is to check your car for them before you head out. It's not much different from checking for stray cats under the hood during the cold times, which, if you're on the East Coast, is right now. Pray for me, I am so sick right now. So I wouldn't blame you for thinking Hyraxes spawn into our lives out of nowhere. But it's not always by accident. I swear I like one video.
Levy, thank you so much for 2 months. Thank you.
And now I get videos of this hamster homunculi in people's houses. I had no idea they were so common as pets. Or legal. Legality aside, Hyraxes are about as good of pets as you'd expect from a travel-sized rodaceous elephant. Which is not at all. They're highly social and territorial. They'll hate your house and you'll hate what they do to it. Especially with their bathroom habits, which I'm gonna get into. Just know you will not get that smell out. But humans weren't even the first primates to try to turn a Hyrax to a house pet. You remember the Hyrax jump scare that is the Western variety? Well, there's someone that thinks this weremole is cute. Chimpanzees have shown a strangely genuine curiosity in this hunk of fur. In 1995, researchers came across a group of chimps surrounding a Hyrax that had fallen out of a tree.
And they didn't like actually tear it to shreds.
And another one poking it with a stick. They just watched it until they eventually lost interest and just left them alone. To be fair, less than 5% of a chimp's diet is meat, but I've seen chimps do raccoons dirty for existing. They also hunt bush babies, but somehow a Hyrax gets a pass. In 2016, scientists clocked a male chimp with a past tense Hyrax, and I swear from the way they describe it, he was treating it like a doll, seemingly grooming it, even blowing on its hair, and no, he didn't even eat it in the end. But the weirdest case might have been in 2000, when a female chimp adopted one for a day. She carried it around, groomed it, and even spent the night in her nest with it, and spent a total of 15 hours cradling it. And while the Hyrax was already dead, it wasn't by her effort. I know I'm not supposed to anthropomorphize, but again, I've seen these same apes do Diagor's grizzly. So you're gonna have to convince me Caesar and them don't find them cute. But again, you wouldn't really want a Hyrax as a pet. One, because their social structures are way too complex. I was not kidding when I said leaving a stowaway on foreign turf is like putting a prison green light on them. In a Wawa of up to 80 Hyraxes, the highest Rax is the territorial Himrax that lords over the females, their young, and any younger males not yet seen as a threat. And it's usually this top male that's responsible for sentry duty, basically acting as a lifeguard while the others feed, and blaring out an alarm call if he sees a threat like an eagle, which gets all the Hyraxes to hightail it. Not only is it uber effective against predators, it's the same way meerkats manner. But when you look like a hodgepodge of other animals' homework, you get no show on how Hyraxes happen. I'd watch it because the drama would go crazy. Those tusks are for more than just attracting mates. You wouldn't know it, but these Hyraxes are fighting for their lives, and those teeths can tear each other apart and more than barely inconvenience you. Running fades is such a risk that Hyraxes have ways to avoid conflict. The main one is by breaking into song. I'm not even kidding, the same way gorillas beat their chest to advertise size and avoid fights, male Hyraxes do by singing, and studies have proven that they'll increase their audible output when there's more stranger neighbor Raxes around, which sometimes the strangers respond to. It's their version of a diss track, and they take the craft seriously, because it's also been proven that Hyraxes that sing the most and maintain the best rhythm go on to father the most successful offspring. I love the internet because there's no other way I'd know this, but it's why male Hyraxes sing all year round, and unlike most other animals, they sing as a solo, but they also sing unlike almost any other mammal. Hyraxes sing with syntax, and in casual terms, it means the sounds they sing and the order they sing them in aren't random. They're actually specifically structured, with each note purposely sequenced like lyrics. That's something you normally see with birds, and other than whales, bats, and some primates, the Hyrax is the only mammal found to do this. Which means it's not a stretch to say they have way more complex a language than anyone ever gave them credit.
That's really interesting.
Especially since Hyrax hymns can go on for minutes, and songs even have specific regional dialects. Just an effing thing. I think not. Especially since they have a social network we've never seen in another animal, but in humans. Studies show that Hyraxes subscribe to the friend of my friend is my friend rule, and they'll spread these social ties in a way that creates overall social balance. Not only do Hyraxes living like egalitarians live longer and better, it's actually the Hyrax that was the first non-human animal to be seen with this kind of social structural balance. Yeah, the Awawa did that. Like, they'll use the friend of a friend concept to create calculated trios, and it's proven that Hyrax groups that do this on a large scale are way more chill and see way less aggression. It's also why I said airdropping one into a new hood is assisted census subtraction, because newcomers immediately invite instability. Although complex social order makes a lot of sense, because Hyraxes have a lot going for them. Keeping themselves warm enough to stay alive ain't one of them. Nature kind of screwed them there, so they spend 95% of their time either resting or basking. They're damn near solar powered. They'll also use the Tetris method to stay warm, and when you need cuddle time to survive, it's best to know who your friends are. So yeah, there's a lot more to the Hyrax than being the elephant's understudy. They got their fingerprints in history. Well, not their fingers.
I wonder why they're
Animals
in the Bible.
dragging ass sets on the ground is nothing new. But recently, the first known fossil of one butt scooting was uncovered from over 120,000 years ago, and that autograph belonged to, their butts tell us a lot more about the past, and it is because of their bathroom habits. See, I told you we were gonna get to that, just had to learn something first. Hyraxes all produce in the same place, in these latrines called middens, and while it's another reason why you wouldn't want one in your house, they've actually graffitied entire cliffs with their calcium carbonate pee, because they pee in one spot and they pee a whole lot. But generations of dropping deuces in the same spot means middens are stockpiled with hyracium.
They shit in the same spot, and they pee in the same
spot. This hyracium is like the less aesthetic version of amber. But the substance with erase in its name does the exact opposite to history. Studying the poop piles can tell you a lot about the past.
They're kind of like
preserving
us.
time in a way built to last. With some of these middens going back 70,000 years.
Jesus
Hyraxes grab time
Christ.
capsules and fix your face, because that's not the only use we get out of them. Because yeah, Hyrax poop has been traditionally used as perfume. It's not super common today, but I'd love for someone to comment and tell me what it smells like. That same hyracium has also been used in traditional medicines to treat issues like epilepsy. Are you now seeing how lousy the internet's doing this animal? They are so much more than a filler character on Noah's Ark. You don't even have to care about them, but if you care about the Arabian leopard, one of the closest to being discontinued cats, then you should probably know that a big part of their diet is the rax. I feel bad for them. Being this weird of an animal just to be called a bare minimum's gotta be a kick in the balls. Good thing theirs are on the inside. And that's gonna do it for this video.
Good thing those are in the inside.
Patreon plug, you probably heard that before. Book plug, you've definitely heard that before. Spread the
That's true.
Awawa word,
They have
and
their
I'ma see y'all
testicles inside
in the
of
next
them.
one.
They're like elephants also have that. Oh my god. I love that so much. Alright guys, I'm gonna take a small break and maybe I'll watch let's see. Do you guys wanna watch like Nuke's Top 5? Or do you guys I don't know, maybe we shouldn't. I do kind of wanna watch one more. Wait, I wanna watch one more. I definitely do. Okay, so let's see. We didn't see this one. Wait, did we see this one? I don't know if we saw this one. This one is the.
Oh my God! What in the?
Is this the ad? What the?
Oh Lord! Oh Lord!
Oh Lord!
Broken.
Oh my god, that's so funny. It was another video.
Some animals very clearly got the middle finger from evolution. This is the portrait of privilege. There is no animal that's gotten more green lights from God than a bulletproof, sawtoothed, predatory sledgehammer with hyperintelligence, parkour prowess, and the ability to cryo-sleep like Captain America. Yeah, that menace is alive. Find out if you want to. Brumation's pretty much hibernation for reptiles. Basically a built-in power save mode for animals that already don't use much of it. But it means this is an apex predator that can survive a fate with Elsa, because gators and the like can survive a winter in a frozen pond by turning their metabolism all the way down, where they'll just stick their snouts above water and leave the rest under the ice where it's actually warmer until fate decides to defrost them. Mind you, brumations not sleep, and gators will move around on days when it's warmer, but it also means this ill-mannered iceberg can probably sense you walking past it, thanks to another superpower we'll get into later. Because you're gonna learn that not only is the mame gecko the most disrespectful addition to the food web, it is humanity's greatest predator. Whatever Oppenheimer felt when Hiroshima got hit with a massacre mushroom isn't even 1% of the regret felt by whoever unleashed an armor-plated equalizer onto Earth. But real quick, I'm gonna be saying crocodiles for most of this video, but a lot of this applies to crocodilians as a concept. I cannot express how much every part of a crocodile's body is designed to author your obituary, and that includes its walnut-sized brain. Because crocodiles are intelligent on a level that should deeply disturb you. Both mugger crocodiles and American alligators will lure birds in by using sticks and twigs as bait to snatch their souls. That would already be bad enough. Without the implication. The implication is that Satan's snaggletooth stapler is able to take seasonality into account, since they're aware enough to pull this in the middle of nesting season. They're like Batman with prep time, except they've had 100 million years to plot. Another revelation is that the dinosaur time left behind will hunt as a pack, with scientists watching a group of crocs swimming in a circle around a shoal of fish, making the circle tighter and tighter until the fish were forced into a bait ball, just for the chompy boys to take turns cutting across the center of the circle to get their share of fish. There's another example where a massive saltwater crocodile scared a pig into running into a lagoon, where it was immediately jumped by two smaller crocs waiting. Now the implication there is somehow the giant salty knew exactly what direction to force the pig. Crocs have been doing this, it's just as expert Vladimir Dene will tell you, it's incredibly difficult to study an animal that does its damage in the water. Because if you're in the water studying hunting crocodiles, chances are they're also studying you, and their thesis statement is your headstone engravement. Vlad has put in over 3,000 hours of watching crocs, and has witnessed things like a stronger, heavier croc driving fish to shore, with smaller, more agile teammates hawking cornered fish. Now you might ask, how do the crocs share their victims? And honestly, that might be more unsettling than how they murk them. Chris Campbell was a contractor for the Okefenokee Wildlife Reserve, which meant over a decade of watching what a neighbor gator is capable of. One
you
day
like
he showed
gators?
up to work with
You'd be surprised.
gators posted up by the boat docks.
Sometimes
what
they're
he described
people's
were two
favorite
groups of
animal.
gators, one in the semicircle formation driving fish to the shallows and using the boats to corner them, and the other group in the background resting. Or more like waiting.
He's kind of cute though.
Whenever a gator from the hunting party caught a fish, he'd immediately retire to the waiting group.
And baby gators are so cute.
This went on for hours
like funny
until it got hot
clicking
enough for them to
noises.
clock out and go their ways. But when Campbell went back the next morning, like clockwork, the morning crush was still there. Same time, same place, same agenda. That's a level of teamwork and foresight most people aren't willing to accept from a prehistoric snap trap. But your ignorance ain't bliss. In fact, it's what sustains them. In many spots in Africa and Australia,
Your
people are
ignorance
warned
isn't
never to get
bliss.
water from the same place more than once, and definitely not past twice. It's because crocodiles will memorize patterns and clock your daily routine, and getting too predictable around a professional camper means the croc will take note, just to ambush you the next chance they get, and they'll use very little energy to do it. It's also why studying them is like edging death. Choose the same spots repeatedly, and at best, the croc notices and avoids you with no regard for your research. And at worst, Senor Snappy studies your habits enough to put a halo around your head. That's a real PhD, which makes the crocodile a gift-wrapped FU to any creature of habit, and why the most dangerous kind of croc is actually an investigator. But if you watch this video, you could be the smartest thing missing a spine. You'll still be a living doormat if you don't have the hardware to back it up. And no animal has more disrespectful hardware than a motion-activated bear trap.
This is kind of like the crocodiles and the there goes the buffalo. The crocodiles and the Komodo dragon are probably the most closest to like dinosaurs,
right? Is the most
right?
physically unfair predator on Earth because virtually every body part has been expressly designed to flatline you. They have the strongest recorded bite force of any animal at 3,700 pounds per square inch, making its jaw a steel trap capable of damage on par with victims of war. But maturing's realizing it's the teeth as much as the jaw. Sharks have serrated teeth to slice through prey. Crocs have death cones designed to keep prey in its custody, meaning if a leather log bites you, you have the lowest chance of escape, which gets worse when the croc proceeds to drown you. And with crocs being able to hold their breath for up to 2 hours, trust that you'll pass tense long before
Why
he
is a
does.
chicken the closest thing to a T-Rex?
Useless for chewing, so they'll slam prey into chunks and swallow them whole, which leads to the most broken finishing move of any animal, the death roll. But crocs also have the most acidic stomach of any animal and can dissolve bones, horns, and hooves. But they're also bloodbenders with a heart that controls exactly where the blood goes, and a feeding croc will direct blood to its stomach, so the carbon dioxide in it only makes the acid more corrosive. And good luck fighting back when nature made an evolutionary agro weapon borderline bulletproof. Crocodiles are covered in osteoderms.
I guess I like to eat dinosaurs.
Other animals from doing damage, which is why there's more than one case of a croc tanking a gunshot. But the nasty work is what you can't see. The scales are said to manipulate water in a way that means a 20-foot problem doesn't make ripples. The osteoderms create countercurrents that cancel out any disturbances made in the water. Basically,
then, like, why are crocodile wallets and crocodile purses like so common?
When it gets too cold, and then release it when it's too hot. So they also have.
If they're so dangerous.
There's one more trick under its skin, and it's that when crocs spend all that time underwater, lactic acid starts to build up in them. But because osteoderms are made of mineralized bones, the minerals will slightly dissolve if the acid gets too high, releasing carbonate and bicarbonate ions that neutralize the acid and raise the pH. Crocs
People
are
have more power, yeah, it's because
Evolution gave
humans
them
are
every
more
cheat
yeah,
possible.
that's true.
And with salties growing up to 20 feet long and
oh my
scales are
god,
often over 2,000 pounds, it's not like they needed more handouts. Especially when you realize, except for a tail that stores fat like a camel's hump, crocs are almost all muscle and look like a snake with legs with Kratos' knives for teeth. That tail is a lot stronger than you'd think, and the same one that can briefly airlift a plus-size predator would absolutely shatter your leg with a direct hit. But there might not be anything more unsettling than crocodiles having probably the most advanced eyes of any animal. Eyes nature put right at the top of their heads, so snappy lads can plot on your life while cosplaying as a law. Eyes that have a protective nictating membrane, so even attacking one of their few weaknesses still requires two-factor authentication, especially since they can retract their eyeballs. And like dolphins, crocs can rest half their brain at a time, meaning the pride of Steve Irwin can sleep with one eye open, and studies show they're more likely to do that when they're around humans. Also, they have night vision because of course they do. And that's not even the most
because of course they do.
The fovea is a small part of the retina, but it's where vision is the sharpest, and it's what you use when you focus on a specific word on a page, or play Where's Waldo. And when you move your eyes to look at something, got him, that's you putting the image on your fovea. The problem is, what is a tiny dot for us is the shape of a skid mark in a crocodile. Having a fat fovea means nature's favorite predator can scan an entire shoreline without moving its head. If you still don't follow, get a book and try to read the entire page without moving your eyes once, and then realize how much of a middle finger this creature's existence is. The Titanic scale demon has cockroach levels of plot armor. Crocodiles can tank freezing cold, extreme heat, radiation, and can live in waters contaminated with heavy metals.
Wait, what?
And with a diet of
They're like
they're
roaches.
resistant to nastiness like anthrax, cholera, and the most potent substance on Earth, botulism. They also have negligible senescence, meaning they don't really age the same way most animals do. It doesn't make them immortal, but it does mean that they never really stop growing and can easily pass 100. In fact, right now, there's a croc that's been alive since 1900. Like the year. Which means, other than a Greenland shark, I don't think there's another predator that can outlive a croc, and with them being nature's favorite, of course some sick muppet made them resistant to cancer. And many believe it's thanks to their gut, because the gut microbiome is said to be a huge part of your health, and a crocodile's gut community manages to reverse cancer. An experiment found that their gut bacteria put the brakes on cancer, and slowed the growth of cancer-causing cells. Basically, it's a cancer to cancer, and now I understand why Buddy from Spider-Man crashed out. Especially since it turns out alligators and crocodiles can regenerate a lost tail. Crocodilian blood also
so does that mean if you can get your hands on like
salmonella and staph infections,
the gut like biomes of the crocodile, you can reverse cancer?
Yet get neutralized by a rubber band around the mouth proves nature has a sense of irony. But that's a lot better than getting folded by some of the diseases out there. And there's some stuff that Satan would second guess. Viewer discretion is advised, and this time, I'm so serious. I'm not being cute. If you're queasy and not built for body horror, go here before I ruin your whole day. Your lack of action will be considered consent.
Are we queasy? I'm not queasy.
You can still go back. Alright, this is on you. 3, 2, happy Halloween. I didn't even curse, I did gag a little. This is a deer suffering from papillomavirus, and it's usually not harmful unless you value mental health. But it can also cause Lovecraftian rabbits, with those affected seeming to grow tentacles. And if you live in Colorado, you've definitely seen these jackalopes popping up. And according to this article, the cutaneous quills are caused by the cottontail papillomavirus. This is the worst thing you can see while a mile high. Because of the altitude. We fear most what we can't understand, and sometimes it feels like fear is the only thing stories like these are selling, and how that story is told could be the difference between being informed and building a panic bunker expecting the end of the world. That's where ground news comes in. because if we're talking about a mutant deer with flesh bubbles for sanity's sake, you better be informed. Their app and website pulls from over 50,000 sources worldwide to give you context about each source's biases, reliability, and ownership. It allows you to compare how different outlets cover the same story and see where the truth really lies. And with the rabbit story, Ground News shows you over 200 sources, and that most
music.
came
Could
from
you
the
tell?
left or center. If I scroll down, I can see all the articles, and the more sensational headlines that were calling them Frankenrabbits actually came from lower factuality sources. As you can guess, the higher rated outlets were the ones explaining what was going on.
It's like the mold.
Things you'd otherwise be blind to, but it's also
oh my
great for
god,
erasing
it's
context and
I'm
mass
not saying
producing
anything.
misinformation, which is why Ground News takes the mask off of who's really pushing a story to explain the inexplicable. And Ground News was even recognized by the Nobel Peace Center for their efforts in media literacy. If you'd like a guide to navigate random rabbit holes, no, not this one. By now, you already know.
Oh my god, it's like the mold. It's the mold from Resident Evil 8.
Access Vantage plan I'm using.
See, Milky, it's true. It's the mold from Resident Evil 8.
On screen to subscribe for only $5 a month. So hopefully,
don't do it, guys. Don't do it. Don't fall for it. Who gives a shit about the news?
Something like that. It just wasn't enough. Nature gave an overachieving iguana the most broken
but they're
build
so
on the planet.
cute.
Their abilities would get them banned in any game.
He's
Like
doing
I said,
the dad
a crocodile on a
the
stakeout can hold its breath
baby.
for hours, and alligators can survive a 5-month cold plunge. Low metabolism means they live on power save mode, and it's also why a crocodile can go up to 2 years without eating. God bless the bloke that breaks his fast. It means crocodiles can wait out the times that would surely wipe out anything else, and now you see how an aggressive snout managed to reject the same death that found the dinosaurs. Crocs have been around since Saturn was single and still waiting on a ring, and the fact that they can just suspend animation by putting their life on layaway just proves that they really are the teacher's pet of evolution. Also, crocodiles are more than capable of running fast enough to catch you off guard, or at least a Cuban croc will.
That's
And this is the one
interesting.
time
I can't believe they can
spend
spend 2 years without eating.
Is guilty of attempted murder. That is a myth that only ups the chance that you trip and go out like a horror movie. You could climb a tree, except they can do that too, because honestly, why not? They do everything else. And not only do they climb trees, according to scientists, they do it regularly, with them finding grown adults 10 feet in the trees and juveniles as high as 30. School taught you to be afraid of quicksand and giant Venus flytraps, yet somehow a drop gator was an unmentioned possibility. They can also climb fences of every kind. And again, you already know where this was taken. This is flagrantly Floridian. I think now's a good time to mention crocodiles are more related to birds than to a turtle, snake, or a lizard, meaning we just barely missed out on this freak being able to fly. Flightlessness aside,
oh my god, imagine.
Is see underwater. Their aquavision is actually kind of mid. We're this far into this video.
How are they more related to birds?
Don't get too excited, because nature overcompensated with something outrageous. Those pits seasoning the crocodile are pressure sensors, and it's how the ultimate predator can clock the smallest vibrations in the water. It completely erases their lack of water vision. In fact, you could hog-tie a croc blindfolded, throw it into a pool, and let a leaky faucet drip on a complete opposite side. The croc will still know exactly where the water's coming from, while you won't know where he is until you wake up at a Tupac concert. And when murkiness brings the water's visibility to zero, they'll T-pose, spreading their legs and fingers to maximize an already broken ability. And speaking of fingers, their jaws are more sensitive than yours. A dinosaur beast breathing like a nosegay, but let the croc tell it. That's the only demon that's slaying. And I don't know if I said this already, but let's not just walk past the fact that they can regenerate their tails like a starfish's arm. But the thing is, bears are berserker builds on steroids, cats are four-legged fur ninjas, and orcas are the most cerebral serial murkers on the planet. What is it about this semi-aquatic bioweapon that makes me confidently call them the scariest predator on Earth? Oh, simple. They're a predator's predator. Is there a single predator that generates more anxiety?
They're predators.
Even cheetahs aren't fast enough to cheat death in the hit range of the reptile. Ooh. And the king of the jungle gets a severe vibe check when they're out of their element. Not to mention, crocodiles will savage sharks to the point where many believe bull sharks actively avoid them. The crocodile is the worst kind of predator, one with zero prejudice, which makes them a massive threat to the most successful predator of all time.
Yeah,
here's the thing, when a lion, tiger, or bear becomes a man-eater, it usually means something's wrong and they can't hunt their normal prey. Polar bears and Komodo dragons are famously less picky, but their home base is so remote that most people will never have to worry about them. Not only do crocodiles practice the worst kind of equality, they're basically everywhere. It's not that they actively go after humans, just that they genuinely don't care. Which is why it's the crocodile that turns more humans into hashtags than any other large predator, by a lot, and considering how and where they do it, that number could easily be higher. Even if you don't get killed by a crocodile, there's plenty of psychological damage that comes from being targeted by one.
Isn't it like Florida's #1 like predator that
two
kills
Australian teenagers spent 22 hours trapped in a tree while being stalked by a 13-foot crocodile below, and the entire night was the two keeping each other awake so they wouldn't fall in. To make it even worse, thanks to a flood, the waters kept rising, and the croc seemed to taunt the two by showing off the body of the third friend it had already caught. The two would be saved, but only by helicopter, because really, what else can you do in that situation? Well, they didn't get it as bad as Ryan. The New Zealander also got stalked by a croc almost as big as the 20-foot kayak he was traveling in, and held captive on Governor Island, where the predator repeatedly made his presence known. 2 weeks with limited food and water, and a 20-foot undertaker that would chase him every time he tried to leave, and Ryan was hanging on by only a thread by the time he was rescued. That's the horror of being hunted by the greatest sit-and-wait predator of all time, because time is their greatest resource. You'll never have more of it than they do. And the fact that the big ones can go a year or more between meals and do their dirty work in murky water makes a man-eating crocodile the most difficult kind to deal with. Gustav was a Nile crocodile believed to be 20 feet long and well over 2,000 pounds. Believed because despite allegedly putting 300 people in past tense and being repeatedly shot, the serial killer croc was never officially caught. And despite reports of his death, because he was believed to have hatched in the 50s, there's a small but legitimate chance he's still out there, biding his time, just waiting for someone to wander close enough to become 50 Shades of Prey. You never see them until it's too late, and once you do, you might not see them for another year. It's a self-cloaking carnivorous convict that the Land Before Time left behind. This is the scariest predator on Earth. But
I can't believe it's related to a bird. Why is it related to a bird?
Just forged by millions of years of character development and mass extinctions. It's not hard to see why Steve Irwin rode so hard for them, and I wouldn't be doing Khaki Jesus justice if I convinced you to hate them. Now, with them it's respect and a very healthy helping of fear, because moral of the story, always beware the old man in a game where men die young. And you always beware the landlord of Croc Country, because you'll never know when rent's due.
You'll never know when rent's due. Oh my god, it's so scary. Yeah, I guess considering that they could just wait until it's just a waiting game. It would probably drive somebody mad, like to the point that like it's just that's pretty scary. That's pretty scary. Okay, let's go over here.